Hi everyone, welcome back to the 21 and Sensory podcast with me, Emily. Today's show marks the 100th episode, which is pretty wild to me, and I have a very special guest for my 100th episode. But I'm gonna let them introduce themselves.
Hi Emily, I'm so honoured to be your 100th podcast. I'm amazed. It's brilliant that you've done so much with your podcast, and I think you started in 2017, so wow, 8 years of podcasting, that's amazing. I feel like I've probably known you the longest out of everybody because I'm your mum.
Way! I've got my mum as my special guest. I think episode 100, it makes total sense to have you on because, like you say, I think you've probably known me longer than I've known myself. So maybe we can start with a bit of kind of background in terms of like family dynamics and setup maybe.
Okay, so you're our first baby. You are the eldest of 3. So I was quite young, I suppose, when I had you. I think I was 25, which wasn't young in those days, back in the 90s. So you were our first baby, and even though I was a nurse, it was still a big change in my life to have a baby. So everything that we came across and we experienced, we just thought was normal for a baby. And it wasn't until your siblings came along that we realised actually there was something a little bit different about you.
That's a very diplomatic way of putting it. So I have a sister and I have an adopted brother, and my sister is 3 years younger than me. And how much younger is my brother?
He's about 6 years younger.
Another 3,
yeah.
Right, so there's 3 between us each. I should know this. Okay, so how did you find having 3 children and juggling all of that?
I mean, obviously, I think going from 1 to 2 children was probably the biggest jump. Going from 2 to 3, not so much, even though obviously your brother came with extra bits and pieces because he has some special needs. But I think we were just one big, chaotic, happy bundle of family. I think when we adopted, that probably had a big impact on you and your sister. But I still don't regret what we did and how we did it.
No, I think the time in which you decided to adopt in both me and my sister's lives was the perfect timing, because I don't remember life without him. And I was like, what, 8, we think?
Yeah, 7 or 8, yeah.
So yeah, I remember, I think I've said this before on the podcast, I remember taking him into school for show and tell. He'd be like, I have a brother now. But I think that was kind of the perfect time because like everyone in my class was like, cool, like kids are quite
accepting, aren't
they? They were very much like, oh, okay, no worries. So I feel like it was a good time. Like it doesn't almost feel like we've ever not had him as a brother kind of thing. And he doesn't feel adopted. Like it feels weird to say he's my adopted brother. Like I have brother and sister is what I would usually say.
We don't often tell people now that he's adopted.
I think I'd only really say it for this podcast just to be like clear.
I think the reason, it's probably worth saying that the reason that we did adopt him into our family, and there are all sorts of reasons for adoption, because I'm a type 1 diabetic, my pregnancies were really quite tricky. Those were the days before insulin pumps and monitoring systems, so it was quite a difficult thing to do, to be pregnant and diabetic. So I had 2 pregnancies, 2 healthy babies, but really felt that going forward it wasn't something I would want to risk again. So, but we knew we still wanted a bigger family, and that's why we started to look at adoption. So yeah.
So you knew you wanted 3 and you knew you wanted a son?
Not necessarily.
Not?
We wanted a bigger family, but when it came to looking at adoption, we were kind of advised that it might be a good idea if we adopted a boy, because then any differences in kind of the way we brought him up or the way he behaved or acted might be just because he was a boy and not because he was adopted.
Okay, interesting.
I think, yes, I mean, now I think we've brought you all up the same, but you're all very different and all have very different feelings and emotions and behaviours and difficulties. So I'm not sure how that kind of theory worked out, but yes, a boy in the family, so that your dad didn't feel too outnumbered as well, was probably not a bad thing.
I see. So how did the adoption process work? 'Cause I imagine it might be slightly more difficult now, or it sounded like it was difficult then.
I don't think it's become any easier. I think things have changed slightly in that when we were looking at adoption, things were starting to change. Things like different ethnicities were encouraged to come forward for adoption, and they were starting to realise that children needed to be adopted into families from a similar ethnicity. Mm-hmm. But even then, there was still the option, if you were a white couple, you could potentially adopt a black child. Now I see that there are so many pitfalls with that for a child. But at the time, back in the early 2000s, which is when we did adopt, they were just desperate for adopters. So we tried our local authority. They said no to us because you and your sister, they felt, were too young. So we went with an adoption agency in London who liked our profile and felt that the fact I'd been a nurse, and they said yes, they would take us on. The whole process between us inquiring and us adopting, ironically, when we went forward for our first inquiry session, that was the month that your brother was actually born. So
whoa.
The whole process took two years.
Right. Okay, so it was only... Oh, wow, that's kind of weird, like, alignment. Okay, that's quite interesting.
But he was quite young, you know, younger than a lot of children that are adopted. It's quite hard to adopt a very young child.
He was living with a lot of older children, wasn't he, as well?
He was 17 months when we adopted him, which is quite young.
Mm-hmm.
And there are good reasons for adopting an older child. By the time they're a bit older, you know exactly where their difficulties lie. Mm. And we were still trying to work out what his disabilities and his abilities were when we adopted him. But also it gave us kind of a bit of a leap of faith, because we didn't know, so we had to just go forward anyway.
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, he's a little baby that needs caring for, no matter what his difficulties turn out to be.
So I think the one thing that adoption really highlighted for us as a family was that when we started, we were told while we waited we should read around adoption, read all the things that children came with, problems they might have. And when I started to read about adoption and the fact that many adopted children have sensory issues, it just was like a light bulb saying, wow, this is all Emily. This is Emily, this is describing Emily, this is all about Emily. And while we waited for adoption to happen, that's when we started to look at things for you. And we had you assessed originally because you were struggling at school, and we thought maybe you had something that could be addressed sensory wise. So we had you looked at by a private agency to see if they would assess you, and really they should have highlighted some things that later were obvious, but how they didn't pick up on it, I do not know. But they advised us to take you to occupational therapy,
Mm-hmm.
which we did, and that was eye-opening for us, that we suddenly realised how many of your difficulties were sensory related.
So what difficulties would you say I had as a baby/toddler that aligned?
Intolerance to things like clothing,
Mm.
teeth brushing, hair brushing, being held. You didn't like anybody pushing your buggy that wasn't your mum, so you would always check to make sure if any, who was pushing, and if it wasn't your mum, you'd be a bit antsy about that. Tight socks, tight jumpers, but then also things like people sneezing would instantly make you cry. That sudden loud noise would make you cry, and we just thought that's what babies do. But then we realised that actually, no, this was just something that you did.
Oh, I do. Okay.
But there were funny moments too. You used to love people pulling sellotape off the roll. You found that really funny when you were a baby. So we went through quite a few rolls of sellotape just to make you laugh.
The things you do to entertain a baby. I remember you saying that. Oh yeah, it's weird that some noises were. I guess that's the whole kind of defensive versus like seeking kind of.
Yeah,
sensory.
and the fact that you didn't crawl, you're a bottom shuffler,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just occurring to me even now talking to you, that was probably because you didn't want to put your hands on the floor.
Yeah.
So you shuffled your bottom so that you didn't have to crawl around on the floor and get sticky, dirty hands. I don't know.
Yeah, because I never used to like. What was it, like finger painting and like Play-Doh?
Yeah, Play-Doh. Face paints were a big no. You never wanted your face painted ever.
No, still don't.
No.
Why would you? Okay, that's kind of interesting. And then, yeah, so I definitely feel like occupational therapy was the most helpful
Yes.
therapy.
Of all therapies.
Yeah, because before I couldn't brush my teeth or brush my hair or tolerate that. I think it also helped with my like fine motor skills as well.
Yes.
Because I feel like, I mean, I still struggle with cutlery in terms of the way that I hold it is a bit weird, but I definitely feel like hygiene-wise, it helped me to be able to actually, brush my teeth and my hair.
And she was able to show us things that hadn't even occurred to us. I remember she took a video of you, which we've still got somewhere, where she had 6 beads and she put them in a row in front of you and she asked you how many there were and you counted them. And then she moved them all together and she said, were there now more or less? And you said, well, there's more. She said, well, do you want to count them? So you counted them. And you said, but no, there's definitely more, because she'd grouped them closer together. And so your perception of things was
There's more of them.
yeah,
as a
because
group,
they're
yeah.
closer together. So
Okay.
that would affect things like your maths.
Yeah. I've always struggled with that.
Yeah. So that was really interesting for us to see that.
Yeah. How did I have just like how long did I see an occupational therapist? I can't actually remember.
Well, because it was under the NHS, you were only allowed a certain number of sessions, but because she was able to prove, you had quite a difficulty. I think 3 sessions in all, three lots of maybe 6 weeks.
I was going to say I remember
Yes.
it being like blocks of.
And she actually came and visited us at home.
Really?
And I do remember taking her to your bedroom and realising, just showing somebody else how chaotic it was. And I mean, you shared with your sister.
Yeah, bunk beds.
Yeah, so you had bunk beds, and you had lots of those kind of IKEA storage boxes that were always crammed full of bits of toys and books. Both of you loved your books, so that side of the room wasn't a problem, but you know, your clothes and just the fact that you shared with your sister lots of cuddly toys. The room was chaotic. And now, knowing what I know...
It was also yellow.
It was yellow. That was a nice...
It was a nice colour.
Yeah. But yeah, knowing what I know now, I can see that it was just no way for the two of you to function, really.
I think also we're very different in terms of the amount of stuff we have.
Yes.
And...
Well, you had your things like your rock collection. Whereas she was very much kind of girly Barbie, baby dolls. Yeah. Whereas you were more kind of, you liked your soft toys and you liked to have them all on your bed and...
Yes.
Yeah, so...
I think I had books up on my bed as well. I remember there wasn't a hell of a lot of space for me as well as my things.
But you did get the top bunk.
I did get top bunk.
Always worth, yeah. Being the eldest for...
I think so. I didn't realise she'd done a home visit as well.
Yes, because she was trying to see how she could help you function better in the day and make your life calmer.
Yeah.
And of course, seeing that room in somebody else's eyes was very much a kind of, oh my word, yes, of course.
It must, I guess as an occupational therapist, there's only so much you can do. I mean, home life, she can advise you on, but I guess primary school, sensory-wise, there's only so much you can do because you have to put up.
She ever contacted school about you, which is really where you needed the most help. But I think, again, masking, school didn't really realise that you had a sensory problem.
I think that even extended to secondary school in that, I had an IEP, a individualised education plan, I think. And I remember, I think you were with me and we told a teacher about it. And wasn't she well, she can't have those difficulties with maths or whatever.
Yes.
But just because I was well behaved or something.
Because I really felt you had. I didn't realise at the time that you were dyslexic because you were meeting all your kind of milestones. You were doing well at school. You were getting good grades. I felt you had a problem with maths, but that's because I probably have a problem with maths as well. But I did feel that you had something called dyscalculia, which wasn't really talked about in those days at all.
No.
And I felt that they felt I was a fussing mum. But of course, when you went to uni, and because it was a creative arts course, you were all screened for dyslexia. Yeah. And that was wow. Okay.
So it wasn't groundbreaking in that they just got us to fill out a kind of initial form as to, I wonder.
But then they called you back, didn't they?
They called me and someone else in my class back, and we were like, oh no.
And then suddenly things opened out a bit to you, didn't they? And you got given extra help. I know you'd got extra time at school, but
I don't think. I feel like it made it more of a equal playing field having extra time in my exams, because I wouldn't have been able to process the question and write a response in the time that other people could. I think it was 25% extra time, which definitely I'd be writing till the last second. And also not to have to do exams in the exam hall.
I mean, I remember vividly going to a parent-teachers meeting and seeing I think it was your German teacher and your French teacher, and both of them saying, no, don't take this language. Don't take any languages, because they realised that it was just too...
No.
Even you said, well, I struggle with English, so I'm not going to be able to do a foreign language.
I love that they were both please don't. And I remember having to explain to my friends, because I think I was the only person that didn't do a language, because you kind of had to do a language. Yeah. But they just realised, didn't they? They were like, no, don't make her do that. I don't think I took anything academic extra at GCSE, because I did drama, art and graphic design for GCSE, and then A-level I dropped anything remotely academic, but still had to do maths GCSE because I didn't pass it.
Yes, with the help of our friend who tutored you a bit, didn't
Yes, yeah, I did really need that. But yeah, it took me 3 times, I think.
he? Took me twice to get my maths.
Did it?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I'm sorry, you've got that gene.
Oh, it's so annoying though when they make you carry it on. Yeah.
How are your quadratic equations?
Yeah. About those. Oh my gosh. I would love to have been better at definitely science, I think, because I do find like it really interesting, but I do feel like a lot of it is down to the teachers that you have as well in terms of engaging you, but also because I was in the lowest sets for I think definitely for maths, I think I was like 1 up from bottom in English, and then in science I was bottom. That means you
get lumped with the kids that just don't want to be there.
Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't, it was kind of me and a handful of other girls, and the rest of the class were just like chaotic boys, and it was just like I had no chance to learn because I needed that extra help. So that was a bit frustrating.
But I think moving to uni for you was just like...
It was terrifying.
It was terrifying, but, we practiced the bus ride there so that you could...
Yeah, because I lived at home, I didn't move.
Yeah, which was also a good choice for you. And then you started driving there?
Yeah.
And you
started actually driving, and considering my left or rights are not...
Yeah. And then but you found out for your driving test that the examiner could give you hand signals.
Yeah, I don't understand why because I failed my test twice with an instructor that I had who said he was kind of dyslexic friendly, but actually wasn't really and was quite flaky, which isn't great. And then...
Yes, I think his daughter had her appendix out at least 3 times.
Yes, something like that. And then my friend's boyfriend at uni, his dad was a driving instructor, and he was great. And I passed first time with him, so 3 times. But yeah, he was like, you can get the person to give you hand signals and stuff. And I was like, great. And he used to put like stickers on the wing mirrors as well, which helped.
For reversing and stuff.
Yeah, and then, do you know what? He might have had left and right stickers. I can't remember. Because this was before like the sat-nav element. So they'd be like, I need you to follow the sign to such and such.
Did you have to do a theory test?
Yeah. I think that took twice. Yeah. I don't know if I got extra time in that. I might have done.
Okay.
I think they might, yeah. But yeah, I don't think I could take it now. But then I feel like a lot of people...
I don't think I could take it.
No. So yeah, I think driving was really hard to master, but once it becomes, I guess like anything, like a rhythm, then it's kind of just becomes second nature. But yeah, I'm glad I could learn to drive, and I definitely learned to drive later than most people. I think I was like 20, 21.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people at sixth form, when they're 17, were like driving, which would have been too...
I'm not sure that happens so much now because it's just so expensive.
Well, surely the insurance as well is a lot, yeah. There's always people that come in with like lovely new minis and stuff, and they're like, I want that.
So I think both at school and at uni, I think you masked a lot, and still do, but I do wonder now whether your friends look back and wonder if you were or are autistic, because you had some very good close friends. How could they not notice? But then we didn't either, so...
What makes you say that in the way that I avoided socialising?
Yes, and the way that you always dressed the same, in the same types of clothes, always had your hair exactly the same. I'm sure you probably even parked in the same spot in the car park.
Well, things like, having the same lunch, the same... Yeah.
So, maybe now if they have other autistic friends that they think, do you know what? You remind me of Emily. I'm sure that's probably something that...
I think until you know someone who is autistic in real life, you don't get a radar for it.
No.
And then you start to see it everywhere almost. You're like, oh, they could be. So
yeah, you're right.
But yeah, I don't really think about it that I had.
But you've always felt that you didn't want your friends to know about.
Well, I didn't actually know in uni that I was autistic, to be fair. I only found out when I was 25, so I was out of education completely.
It just still amazes me that how did we not know this? We knew you had sensory processing disorder, I think they called it then, SPD. But we never ever thought to look any further, did we?
I guess there wasn't really... I don't know, there wasn't really...
There wasn't the knowledge.
Knowledge, yeah. I mean, it was only when I had to start seeing, like, a private therapist because the CAMS stuff, like talking therapy, wasn't very helpful, that they kind of brought it up, sort of thing. And that's when I came home and was like, she said this. And I was like...
And I think then we looked at kind of online surveys, see if you're autistic, and there were some boxes you ticked, but there were some boxes you didn't. But then that's...
But then if you think about it as well, that was... I didn't get diagnosed till 2019, and I think I had to wait like 15, 16 months, which isn't like bad nowadays, obviously. But I imagine the diagnostic criteria was very kind of male-led in terms of like lining things up and like those sorts of questions, I remember. Whereas now I feel like the questions are slightly more like there's a children's assessment.
We know so much more now, don't we? But your assessment day, I mean, the lady that assessed you, she was lovely, wasn't she?
She was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember walking out of there kind of thinking like, ooh, I know this about myself, like things are going to change, and they don't, and I feel like that kind of sucks, but to have that knowledge does really help in being like, that's why I feel like this. And I feel like for the next like couple of months afterwards we were like, oh, so that's why I struggle with this. Or
I think it meant you could be kinder to yourself about some of the things you found difficult.
Yeah. How do you think... I feel like as a family it was... I feel like you understood it the most, I think.
I think probably as your mum...
Yeah.
Being probably around you the most.
Yeah.
It just explains so many things. And because, say my mum, your grandma, also had been following, the ups and downs. I mean, they paid for you to have your first assessment so that you could have it done privately. So they were aware. And to be honest, I think there are people in our family who probably are autistic but undiagnosed. And like you say, the more you know, the more you start to see it in people, and it gives you a bit more understanding. So
yeah, I think so. And I feel like it just explains a lot in terms of like the things that people love to do, like going on holidays, why I just can't manage those, because I could never really put into words why I was so unhappy when...
And that didn't really surface until we started as a family going on holiday abroad, because we'd always gone to Cornwall, to the same place, year in, year out, so it was kind of second home. It wasn't too much of a transition, although you always had this thing when we came back from holiday that we had changed the door handles in our house. I still can't explain that one, but that has to be something along
Didn't I used to as well? Like, I remember, like, vividly, like, saying to you that I thought someone had cut my hair in the night.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Someone's cut my hair. Why would they?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't
someone's
know.
cut my hair. Look, someone's cut my hair in the night. I
Very.
don't know what that was. It obviously
It's a perception thing,
it's a
isn't it?
perception and a sensory thing, I
Yeah.
think. But yes, yeah. Oh, and then we were going to talk about your hearing.
Oh my word.
That was back in primary school. You had a bit of a problem with your hearing and needed grommets.
Mm.
And you, we didn't really realise how much you were missing hearing-wise. It was starting to come through in your spelling tests that you were mishearing and writing down what you thought was being said.
Oh.
And they were saying that, you know, you just weren't learning your spellings right, but it turned out you were writing down what you thought had been said. But I was driving you home from school one day and I said, oh, I've bought you some new school tights. And you said, wow, that's amazing. How do they do that? I was like, okay, that's not quite the reaction I was expecting from just getting some boring old school tights. I said, so what do you mean? How do they do that? He said, musical tights. How do they make them musical? It's like, no, not musical. New school tights.
And that really cemented that I had a hearing problem for you.
You really did. So no wonder you struggled. I mean, you had all this going on at the same time.
Sensory stuff, and I couldn't hear.
Sensory stuff, and you couldn't hear. And then you got glasses, because of course you've kind of got...
That was only when I was 16 though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that wasn't sooner, because, I mean, I got my glasses when I was about 12, so that's a kind
It was
of...
only started to realise that I was squinting to see the whiteboard, like, all of a sudden. What were we talking about before we went off?
Holidays.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so holidays, when we started going abroad, you struggled, you didn't like...
Thing is that was when I was 16 as well, because I remember I didn't have a passport before then, so
Yeah.
it was kind of...
I mean, you did the school trips without too much...
But I'd come home with clothes that I hadn't.
Yeah, but
worn.
then your brother also went on several school trips and came home with exactly the same brand new clothes, not worn at all. So yeah, school and parties were what we thought we were doing a lovely thing and giving you parties to have school friends to. Actually, you hated with a passion. So then we thought, well, we do a joint party with your very best friend, and that would take some of the pressure off you. But no, I think we've got a photo of you sitting next to your best friend and you're crying and she's having a great time. And yeah, so I think we know now that...
But then for my sister, that I can see her loving that.
Yes.
So, yeah, I can...
And actually you helped out at many a siblings party very happily.
I just don't want to be the centre of
just don't
attention.
want to be in
I
the
don't
middle
want to
of it.
be that. Ever.
That's fair enough. Is this interesting to people?
I think so.
Okay.
Why do you not think
I
it is?
don't know.
Yeah, I think it is. I think some of the stories are ridiculous. So now we're going to fast forward to more adult life and having 3 grown-up-ish children. We're still children. We're still babies. Yeah, what would you say have been the kind of ups and downs, I guess?
Okay, so yes, you are all still children to me. And I guess I am in touch with you all every day.
Yeah.
It's very rare that, even though your sister lives in London, it's very rare that a day goes by where we're not in touch, either by text or FaceTime or a phone call. And the same with your brother. He texts. In fact, if he doesn't text, we're usually like, what's he done to his phone?
Yeah.
And obviously you're living back at home now. And that kind of all came about because pre-lockdown, I think 2017, 2018, your brother had some quite severe mental health problems, which as a family we dealt with just really we were quite close-knit about it. We didn't really ask for much help, certainly from our own family, but also to start with, we didn't really know what we were dealing with, and it was a really scary and upsetting time for everybody. And I think it did get to the point where you didn't feel you could live in the same house with him, and we respected that, and we could see that actually for you needed peace, quiet, and the safety of knowing that you were not living near your brother. So you moved out.
But I think also just to add to that is that I was so like crucial to him in terms of keeping his technology working, which is something he obsesses about.
So which was a big pressure to for you, because it was constant.
Yeah, so his mental health is definitely one thing, but that also played a factor into him just constantly destroying and wrecking.
Yes, and he was obsessed with his phone and his watch, and also just messing with the settings of everything.
Yeah.
You were trying to keep him safe.
Yeah, and I'd set stuff back up, and during the day he'd undo it all. Yeah. So I it was almost too. I kind of put it as like he had the kind of autistic mind to like break things down, and I had the autistic mind that needed to fix things, but he kept breaking it, and I had to keep fixing it, and I didn't realise how much of a toll that was.
And actually, until that happened, I mean, he is sensory seeking, you are sensory defensive, and that there hadn't really been a kind of battle, if you like, seeking versus defensive, until this tech issue, where he was taking it all apart and you were having to put it all back together, and it was just constant, and it was a never-ending cycle, and as many interventions as we put into place, he was always getting round it, and it was just feeding into his psychosis in the end, which didn't help. Didn't help him, and it didn't help you.
I got to a stage where I had to keep saying to myself, like, I'm doing it for you guys, I'm doing it for my parents.
And absolutely, because we couldn't have done anything to help him with this
But
tech.
I wasn't really doing, like, it wasn't really benefiting him because he'd undo it so quickly, but I'm like, just doing this for my parents so that we all get, a bit of peace for a little bit before it goes wrong again.
And hindsight's a wonderful thing. I think if we were doing it, we'd do it differently now. We would just remove all that stuff. We thought we were doing the best thing in giving him something to focus on, but actually now that he doesn't have a smartphone and he doesn't have access to internet, and he's in a very safe environment, he's happy and his mental health is much better. Yeah,
I think it's just hard because those were the only things that he did have, in terms of a connection to anything outside of our family.
Because he didn't really have any outside friends or friendships.
No.
So that was a tricky time. I remember when you moved out, I did feel it wasn't happy that Emily's off.
Exciting,
Yeah, because I felt that you didn't really want to be going, and I missed you when you moved out.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. And of course then we had some difficult times when your brother was in hospital, and as a family we were really, I'm really proud of the way we coped with that, because we were really strong through that, and even though sometimes you and your sister weren't here, we were still there for each other, and
I think we juggled in terms of visits and stuff. We'd try and organise so that he was at least seeing one of us every day kind of thing.
That was well done us.
We did good.
But then once he was home and lockdown suited him, but not you, because we were all kind of in the same environment. But he was happy during lockdown, I think. But again, we still had all the tech issues.
We're going back a bit now.
Yeah, I've dropped back. But so once he went into his residential setting,
which was
nearly 2 years. It'll be 2 years in January. that's when you felt that you really needed to come back home. You were finding...
It's just struggling.
Yeah, you were, weren't you? And things were changing and you weren't happy. So we just said, well, come home for a bit of a break. And that bit of a break just
became permanent. Yeah, I think also my struggles with like dissociation and depersonalization and derealization, I was just so lost in the thick of it. And I think I still am, but I've just learned to live with the horrible feeling of dissociation, whereas at that time I was still like terrified of it. Now I hate it. It's jarring, and I hate as soon as like I step out the door, especially, I don't feel connected to anything, and also my voice feels separate after talking for a while.
Yeah.
So I've said to you, like, I'm finding podcasting hard just because of my voice and stuff. So,
and I think for me and your dad, it's difficult for us because there's no outward signs of that struggle. So we can't feel what it's like for you to be going through this, and there's really no way for us to practically help you with it. We can understand it and we can read around it, but there's no kind of... I wish there was something practical I could do. I can do the practical kind of, I can find you fidget toys, I can give you the food you like and the clothes you like and the washing powder you like, and
that is crucial.
Well, it is. And we can track down your favourite conditioner, but there's nothing I feel other than know and be around for you to say, I'm really struggling today, and read the books on it and still struggle to find a way
understand it. I think I've said it to you before, where I've just been like, I wish for like a minute or two you could experience it, because then you'd be like, God, that's really horrible. But yeah, it's hard because it's 24/7, so I don't really verbalise it. I'm not very good at verbalising things anyway. Like, I've always like written you letters when I've struggled, because it's easier to put it all down than it is to say it. But yeah, I don't know how.
And you've done all the things to help you. You thought moving home would help that. You thought giving up going into a workplace would help that. But none of those things have it's got no worse, but it's still not.
No, I was kind of hoping overnight
Yes, you'd wake up and it would be much better.
Yeah.
So that's still a challenge that we've got to tackle.
I think so. I do want to say about like the workplace stuff as well. I feel like it was good, like for the past 10 years. Obviously that's where I got my like graphic design experience, through working in companies, in offices, but I think I didn't realise that there are other ways to work, and I was very much trying to fit into that box, where actually I think for the past 10 years that's probably not helped me. It might have, it has, like, it's tricky because there's pros of, professional career, like good experience, good projects that I worked on, but the other side is, being autistic, navigating that. I only found that out 5 years in, and the company I was working for, I told my manager, which was really hard, and nothing happened, and then they wouldn't promote me because they said that I didn't have any leadership skills, but I wasn't going to be a manager, so I left then. And it was just, I felt like I was constantly trying to fit into a box of employee, whereas actually I was spending a lot of time just escaping to toilets. And
so at least you don't have to do that. But I think our worry about you working from home has always been that you might be isolated, that you would lose friendships or contacts. But actually, you're keeping up with your sport. You have people that you go out and about with from
like walks and stuff.
Yeah, so I think definitely having a dog helps you with your
Yeah,
socialising, because people want to talk to dogs.
Yeah, that's the only thing I find hard about him being cute, is that everyone's like, oh, what's his name? How old is he? And I'm like, oh God, people.
I know, but it's good. It's
I
good.
know. He attracts a lot of attention. But yeah, I do think he is good, because you can't not walk a dog.
Absolutely, and he's definitely a reason to get up every day, and he's just so happy to see you all the time.
Yeah, he is.
And
the thing is, it's difficult though, because like obviously huge amount of pros. The cons for me are he doesn't feel real, but I know that that's a dissociation thing, and that is really upsetting, because I've always wanted a dachshund specifically since I was like 18, and I don't feel like the world is real when I'm out there with him. So I think I am still angry about that I can't feel it. I've talked to my therapist about this.
Yeah, and I can understand that would be...
It's something I've always wanted, but he doesn't feel
and
like...
I hope that feeling goes. That's all I can
So do I.
hope. Because, oh my goodness, he is real.
He is real, and he can be a pain in the butt sometimes, and I've had to edit out where he's yawned and been a pain. And he's looking at me like...
Me?
I'm wonderful. Okay, so before we finish, is there anything else that you would like to... Obviously, you haven't got anything really to promote, but is there any kind of, like, I don't know, hobbies or projects that you want to talk about, or things that you're trying to get out in the world?
I mean, I suppose it would be lovely to come back and say, this is my published book, because for years now I have been sending off children's books to publishers with very, very little success, and have recently moved into writing middle grade novels, having worked at school for a little while, worked at my sister's school, which has been great fun. But yes, I just decided I would have a go at writing a novel. So I did. I've written a middle grade novel. It does feature a couple of diabetic characters, which I feel sometimes it's helpful to write about what you know. And I had great fun writing it. I really enjoyed the process. And I have started the second in the series.
Have you?
I have.
Oh,
I know, you'll be able to read about the second character scene. So it's about 4 friends at school, and it's funny, and it's a little bit of a mystery, and I've enjoyed it, and certainly my family, who are not, what should we say, what's the word? Not independent.
Oh, we're not unbiased.
Unbiased. They're not unbiased at all, but they enjoyed it, and did pick me up on some footballing terms that I got wrong. So that's been corrected now. So yeah, it would be lovely one day to see my book in a bookshop. That is on my bucket list. So one day, you never know, but even if it doesn't happen, I will keep writing. So I like to think sometimes that's where you've got some of your creative talents from.
Also, your drawing as well is amazing.
It's not on a par with yours, but we are so proud to be, Emily, really, for everything you've done, and everything you're still doing, and everything you do for autism and the autistic community. It's amazing.
Thank you very much for coming on. I feel like you know me so well in that when I was trying to think of things to do for 100th episode, I was like, it can't be big, it can't be a surprise, it can't be... And this was perfect.
There we go.
And this is my first in-person podcast.
Oh,
so, yeah, I think it was nice to do that for the 100th.
So, well done, 100th podcast finished, tick.